Hello and welcome to Putting It Bluntly for WWE Survivor Series 2021. Every year I look forward to Survivor Series and remember how much I enjoyed it when I was a young lad, and every year I get a little bit more disappointed than the previous. Sadly that's the case again this year, and I'll just say this before we start. It's very easy at the moment to pick on WWE and point out how shit they are when you've got AEW on the other side who seems like the nice trendy alternative. I've discussed many times for the last couple of years that they're not that alternative, so you shouldn't just take the piss out of WWE and say that they're shit before they've even rung the bell. However, in this instance, they absolutely deserve every bit of criticism they got for this pay-per-view. It was just a proper letdown. As well as the usual time wasting and just pretending that this is a sporting event where people are genuinely competitive with each other, it just wastes time with the whole opposing brands, Raw versus SmackDown, bragging rights, one time of year that Raw and SmackDown compete, ignoring Royal Rumble and ignoring anything else they put on. And then alongside that, they've just got the usual, can they coexist, just all the time, just putting two people that are in a rivalry together on the same team. And it got old years ago, and we just don't need it continuously now. As well as this annoyance, they've also got just WWE being absolute whores, as they are, and as Vince McMahon has been for a while now, and as Vince McMahon also expects everyone that works for him to bend over, grab their ankles, and be just as easy to advertise shit as he is. Well, his company is. This is the first time in a long time that he's actually got his hands dirty with something like this. I mean, he's not dressing up like the KFC Colonel or interacting with 3D CGI Cricket Mobile characters, but it's sadly just yet another thing that takes us away from the wrestling, the thing that's in the fucking company name that people turn up for. Anyway, the prize sponsor of Survivor Series was The Rock's new film Red Notice, which, as well as mention it as often as possible, having the film's name shown whenever we saw a replay, that wasn't enough, so we just had to mash it into the intro thing as well. As well as the intro package coming across with the exact same tone as the WrestleMania intro packages this year and last, where they're sort of winking at the camera and they're talking to themselves and they break the fourth wall, we also got to see a lot of WWE footage mashed in with a load of Red Notice footage. And for some reason, just like when they do this on television with the promotional packages, I don't know who it is in WWE that thinks it looks seamless switching between wrestling and a film, or wrestling and a legit game show on TV, or anything else that's high production but isn't television. It does not look seamless. It stands out like a sore thumb. People see the difference. Get over yourselves. So if you actually sat down early enough and caught this intro, it's pretty difficult to figure out what you've actually tried to enjoy. Is it a film? Is it wrestling? Make your minds up, greedy pricks. I've got a bit more to say about the pay-per-view, but I'll go through the matches first. We'll leave that to the end. There was a guest of honour that everybody expected to turn up, but didn't, so we'll deal with that when we get to it. The first match of the night was on the kickoff show between Damian Priest and Shinsuke Nakamura. Nakamura had Rick Boogs in his corner as usual. Every time Damian Priest was on top of Nakamura, Rick Boogs would start playing his guitar to distract Priest. This obviously pissed off Priest, and Priest ended up going and breaking the guitar, and then smashing the absolute shit out of Rick Boogs with the pieces. And he was still so frustrated, he hit Nakamura with the guitar and got himself disqualified. And that was it. This match was just here. Another champion versus champion. They didn't want anyone to look weak, so they just found a different way of getting out of it. And the first match on the card is Charlotte Flair versus Becky Lynch, despite everybody on the internet saying that they were going to main event tonight. I think the majority of people were looking forward to this match the most. It's been talked about a lot on the internet all week. Everyone and the nan have bought the heat between the two. And it did look a bit more like a legitimate contest, but it also looked a bit clunky and awkward at points. Which I get it's meant to look like a legitimate contest, but it just came across like there was absolute zero negotiation between them at points. It's sort of like watching two great fighters, but they've already been at it for a good hour or so they're tired. You know they can do stuff, but it's not quite hitting. Still, it's Becky and Charlotte. It was better than most, but it didn't really stand out as anything special to me, I'm afraid. Pretty sure the hardest I popped was when I realised Corey Graves and Pat McAfee were working together on commentary. Fantastic. Next, we're given our first serving of Memberries for the evening. We've seen The Rock's introduction. This night now is all about The Rock, because it's his 25th anniversary, so his new film's been advertised on the show. They're going to say his name 100 times. Vince McMahon's going to reference him loads with that egg. And Roman Reigns has done nothing but talk about The Rock for a while now, so surely we all know where this is going. And surely we can all feel safe knowing that WWE would never deceive us by using old videos of The Rock and advertising his new film and making us think he's going to be there. They'd never do that. Just like they'd never change history. We got a video package for Drew McIntyre's career so far where, yeah, they made out like it was Drew's fault. Again. The next match was the Men's Survivor Series 10-man Elimination Tag Match. At the beginning, Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins were arguing over who was going to start. Kevin Owens pretended that he wanted to show how good his intentions were, but then as soon as he was given the opportunity to start the match, he bailed and got counted out. This gave SmackDown a chance to work together very well. and it looked like they were in control, but that was until Finn Balor pinned Baron Corbin. Then Bobby Lashley crushed Queen Xavier Woods with his Hurt Lock. Drew McIntyre then squared off against Lashley, and they rekindled their old feud, and they got counted out, just ignoring the match, which the fans weren't happy with that one. Then Sheamus bro-kicked Finn Balor's head off, and then that allowed Austin Theory to roll up Sheamus with a handful of tights. Sheamus wasn't happy, so he knocked out both Theory and Jeff Hardy, and then in the end Team Raw won when Seth Rollins was the sole survivor. Don't be a bully, be a salesman. Vince McMahon decided it was appropriate to get this golden egg bullshit on Roman Reigns for some reason. I mean, at least he clarified where the egg was from and linked it to the fact that they were whoring a film that night. But still, Roman doesn't need any of this on him. Vince is just, no disrespect, but Vince is just old and fucked now. And although he's one of the last people on the planet that some people would actually give any form of sympathy to, you do start to feel a little bad just seeing him struggle and mumble and looking all over the place. And then all of that sympathy just dissipates into the ether when we move on to The Rock's Birthday Bash 25-man Battle Royal, sponsored by Pizza Hut, obviously, if you didn't get that. There was meant to be a Raw vs SmackDown element to this. There was meant to be some kind of competitive nature. There was meant to be some sort of good reason to bring out everyone else on the roster that didn't make it into a match. But if the decorations around the ring weren't enough to give it away, when the Street Profits came out, they had stacks of pizza in the hand, and it made it very obvious that this was just a sponsored spot, and that's the reason it was there. The brand division ceased to matter after a couple of minutes when Raw guys were chucking Raw guys out and SmackDown guys were chucking SmackDown guys out. And then Omos won when he eliminated 12 people in total. I hope that this was the end, but he still has a little bit of beef with the Street Profits. There were some silly spots with pizza and people stealing pizza off each other and trying to eat the pizza. And then the end of this segment just saw the Street Profits wasting food, like we always see food getting wasted in WWE. They were launching slices of pizza into the crowd, and I really don't know who's desperate or hungry enough to eat that. It would have tasted like shit straight out of the box. Then you've got a couple of dudes who have just been sweating for 10-15 minutes while wrestling, just manhandling the food and just flinging it through the air. By the time it gets to you, it's not going to be very tasty, and it's certainly not going to, make a good impression on your insides. So we've got a waste of time, a waste of talent, and, again, a waste of food. Don't be a bully, be a gambling addict. And now we've got another champion versus champion match where we've got RK Bro against Drunky and Jay, the Usos. I don't really want to shit on the match. It wasn't terrible, but nothing really stood out apart from the ending. I mean, everyone knows what they're doing, unless it's Drunky behind the wheel of a car, but it wasn't for anything. I mean, bragging rights is barely anything to write home about in WWE land now. I mean, the live crowd enjoyed it. I wasn't overly offended by it, but I do believe a lot of the fan noise tonight was pumped in, just like some kind of ghost from the Thunderdome. There were some members of the audience throughout the night that decided to chant for AEW and for CM Punk, but those noises pretty quickly disappeared and we just got other random chants and fan noises. Well, I think we could all see where this was going. Vince McMahon called Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce into his temporary office and realises someone's stolen his golden $100 million egg. So now everything's about this. We got to see that Xia Li graphic novel about potatoing bitches again. That's nice. And then we move on to the women's 5-on-5 Survivor Series Elimination Tag Match. I almost said something positive and commended Shitsy Wet Fart, but she's reverted back to howling and posing like a twat, so sorry love, go back to your OnlyFans where people care. Again, like a lot of the matches on tonight's card, it wasn't the worst thing in history, but there was just nothing that stood out. I mean, even the fans got bored and started a Mexican wave mid-match, so that'll say what you need to know. The main point of this whole contest, I believe, was to make Bianca Belair look really strong, like Roman Reigns strong, because she was against the odds once again. She got to go through all of her usual Cesaro spots, she got the John Cena comebacks, and she was the sole survivor at the end of it, so I don't know why we keep hearing the word adversity when it comes to Bianca Belair in WWE. Apart from that 25-second loss to Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair has been presented very, very well in WWE. A hell of a lot better than most. And she hasn't needed to get her ass and or her tits out for that position either. NXT have begun to advertise War Games, which, it's overdone now, I'm sorry, it used to be special. But if every year you find one or two feuds to turn into War Games, it's overdone. See also anything in WWE that went over well once and they just mashed into a fine fucking paste by repeatedly slapping us in the face with it. Speaking of which, more mentions of The Rock, more Red Notice adverts, and WWE trying to sneak in some more video clips of their stuff mashed in with Red Notice, which didn't work and it looks like it stands out like a sore thumb. It just seems a bit sad to me because, as a wrestling fan, I don't mind wrestling when it's done properly. These little trailers just scream like people are wanting a job out of wrestling, be it the talent or the production or crew or whatever. And now we finally get to the main event, which again is champion versus champion. for apparent bragging rights, but the people don't care what brand they're on. People will watch both or they'll watch neither and they won't pick favourites. I mean, I'll pick some favourites. I'll pick my favourite commentary trio for now. Michael Cole, but Pat McAfee and Corey Graves all together. Very nicely balanced thing. Graves and McAfee very colourful. Cole's very good at bringing them back to reality. Fantastic. Anyway, Big E's serious, focused, new attitude, it's a bit too little too late for me. It's been daft for a long, long time. And although I enjoyed him in NXT with his 5 count and everything, it's going to take a little bit more for us to take him seriously now. I certainly didn't believe he was going to get close to beating Roman Reigns. Which he didn't. He got a few near falls and he kicked out of a few bits, but in the end the spear was enough to put Big E down and Reigns won. The crowd waited for The Rock to appear, which he didn't. No, which was a bit awkward. I wasn't that massively fussed because I wasn't expecting him to be there. As soon as I saw the intro and I saw the video packages with The Rock, and I could tell that was their way of trying to make it so we couldn't get The Rock, but this is the closest we could do. And now at least if people look back, they might mess up the memory a little bit and just see all the Rock clips in their head and think The Rock was there, therefore adding a bit more credibility to a very, very, very mediocre pay-per-view. I'm not going to hold it against WWE for not delivering The Rock. I'm bothered about the fact that they needed The Rock, or they thought they needed The Rock, and this film, and whatever extra of the bump and hype to sell it when they've got the tools to put on a great show, to put on some good matches, but instead it's all about the advertising. That's the primary objective. Not selling wrestling, just selling whatever somebody else wants to sell. And as I said at the beginning of this video, they're making it very easy for people to pick on them when they've got AEW to lean on. Even though AEW isn't great, it's something new, it's something fresh. And WWE are not doing themselves any favours. I'll always try and offer balance and I'll see things from both sides. And I've said before, on average, WWE shows, they're not better, but they're less terrible. Because you can rely on the production quality, you can rely on the standard level of training all the talent get. And then with AEW, it's a little too outlaw. But after tonight, I'm kind of thinking that the scales have tipped a bit in AEW's favour. I don't enjoy everything, but what I do enjoy, I enjoy more. And what I dislike less. Then that's not true. Some of the WWE stuff's just boring. It's not actually offensive like the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. But you get what I'm saying. There's a bit more excitement in AEW. And even the disappointment in WWE is predictable now. As soon as the show opened, I just knew we were getting cock-teased, we were getting blue-balled, and everyone's throbbing erection was just going to go to nothing. And that's enough out of me for the time being. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to support me, you can like and share this video. You can subscribe to me on YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter @BluntDamage. Twitch, Danny Blunt Damage. You can buy me a Ko-fi at ko-fi.com/DannyDamage. And I've recently signed up to Odyssey, which this video will also be on, at odyssey.com/DannyDamage. And then finally, you can find everything else that I've done on dannydamage.co.uk, where there's videos, articles, walls of text, silly pictures, and plenty of other nonsense. Thanks for watching, take it easy, and I'll see you next time.